Los Angeles, California, downtown, the 12th floor of an office building on South Broadway, present day. The woman sitting in the small apartment kitchen is 72 years old, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup that has gone cold while she tells me a story she's never shared publicly. Her name is Margaret Chen, and in 1968 she was a secretary working late on the 11th floor of this same building, typing correspondence for an import-export company that has long since gone out of business. She's agreed to meet me here, in the apartment she's lived in for 54 years, because what she witnessed from her office window on an October evening in 1968 has haunted her in ways she struggles to articulate. Not traumatic haunting, though there was terror in the moment. Something else, the kind of haunting that comes from witnessing something that shouldn't be possible, that defies your understanding of human capability, that you carry silently because explaining it invites skepticism or disbelief. Margaret points to the window that faces the alley between her building and the adjacent structure. I was working late, maybe 8:30 at night. The office was empty. Everyone else had gone home. I was finishing up a letter when I heard sounds from above. Footsteps on the roof. Voices speaking Japanese or Chinese. I couldn't tell which. Then sounds of impact, like someone hitting something hard. She pauses, her hands tightening on the coffee cup. I open my window to see if there was a problem. The fire escape ladder runs right past my floor up to the roof. I looked up and saw two men fighting on the rooftop ledge of the building next door. Not the main roof area, the ledge, the narrow border that runs around the roof's edge. Maybe 2 feet wide, 12 stories up. One wrong step, one loss of balance, and you fall to the alley below. Margaret's voice drops. One of them was Asian, smaller, wearing dark clothes. The other was bigger, also Asian, in what looked like a karate uniform. They were fighting. Really fighting. Not practicing. Fast, violent, both of them moving along that narrow ledge like it was a normal floor. I watched for maybe 10 minutes, frozen, couldn't move, couldn't call for help. Just watched these two men trying to kill each other on a ledge where one mistake meant death. The smaller one, Margaret continues, moved like nothing I've ever seen. Like physics didn't apply to him the same way it applied to normal people. He was fighting on a 2-foot ledge 12 stories above concrete, and he moved with the same confidence I'd have walking across my living room. Years later, after Bruce Lee became famous, I saw his movies, recognized the way he moved. That smaller man on the ledge was Bruce Lee. I'm certain of it. She looks at me directly, her eyes showing the weight of carrying this memory for over 5 decades. I need to tell someone what I saw before I die. Not for attention, not for validation. Because what happened on that rooftop was impossible, and impossible things deserve to be recorded even if nobody believes them. Los Angeles, California, downtown. The roof of a 12-story office building on South Broadway. Early evening, October 1968. The sun is set, the sky showing that particular deep blue of evening twilight before full darkness. The rooftop is typical of commercial buildings from this era. Tar and gravel surface, ventilation units, access door from the internal stairwell, narrow ledge running around the perimeter bordered by a low wall approximately 3 feet high. The ledge itself is perhaps 24 inches wide, the space between the main roof surface and the exterior edge. Standing on the ledge and looking over the low wall means looking straight down 12 stories to the alley below, to concrete and dumpsters and fire escape ladders that would provide no safety if someone fell. The drop is approximately 140 feet, enough that impact with the ground would be instantly fatal, no possibility of survival, death guaranteed by basic physics. Bruce Lee is on this ledge because of circumstances that escalated beyond anyone's control, a confrontation that began in a dojo and migrated to this rooftop through a series of choices that all seemed reasonable at the time but led to this moment of extreme danger. The other man on the ledge is Hiroshi Tanaka, no relation to the samurai master from San Francisco, a karate instructor originally from Okinawa who runs a small dojo in Little Tokyo. He's 38 years old, 6'1", 195 pounds of karate-hardened physique. His specialty is Goju-ryu, a traditional Okinawan style emphasizing close-range power and circular techniques. He's wearing his gi pants and white belt. He strips the top when fighting seriously, his torso showing the muscular development that decades of makiwara striking and kata practice create. The confrontation started 2 hours earlier at Tanaka's dojo. Bruce had been invited by one of Tanaka's students, a Chinese-American named Robert, who trained in both Tanaka's karate and Bruce's developing Jeet Kune Do. Robert thought his two teachers should meet, exchange ideas, perhaps find common ground between Okinawan karate and Bruce's synthesis approach. The meeting went badly from the start. Tanaka, proud of his traditional lineage and dismissive of what he viewed as Bruce's mongrel approach to martial arts, made comments about Chinese actors playing at real fighting. Bruce, never one to ignore direct insults, responded that traditional karate's rigid kata practice created fighters who were technically proficient but strategically limited, unable to adapt to opponents who didn't follow traditional attack patterns. The verbal exchange escalated. Robert tried to mediate, but both men were committed to proving their positions. Tanaka challenged Bruce to friendly sparring, intending to demonstrate karate's superiority through technical application. Bruce accepted, believing he could show that adaptive fighting beats rigid traditional methods. They sparred in Tanaka's dojo for perhaps 20 minutes. The exchange was intense but controlled, neither man able to decisively demonstrate superiority. Bruce's speed and unorthodox angles troubled Tanaka's traditional defensive patterns. Tanaka's power and conditioning troubled Bruce's evasive approach. Both men were skilled enough that the sparring proved only that they were evenly matched under these controlled conditions. The stalemate frustrated Tanaka. He made a proposal that seemed reasonable at the time, but was actually incredibly reckless. Real fighting isn't in dojos with soft floors and referees. Real fighting is in unpredictable environments, where the ground itself is dangerous. If your adaptive style is truly superior to traditional training, prove it somewhere that actually tests courage and commitment, not just technique. Tanaka suggested the rooftop. His dojo was in a building adjacent to an office complex. The two buildings' rooftops were at similar heights, separated by perhaps 8 feet of empty space. Tanaka had trained on rooftops before, practicing kata and exercises in environments where maintaining balance and focus had serious consequences. He proposed they continue their sparring on the rooftop ledge, not trying to throw each other off, but fighting in an environment where the ground itself created real danger, where fear and environmental awareness would test their martial arts under pressure normal dojo sparring couldn't replicate. Bruce should have refused. The proposal was dangerous, unnecessary, the kind of ego-driven challenge that served no real purpose. But Tanaka's implication that Bruce's courage didn't match his technique, that his fighting only worked in safe environments, triggered Bruce's competitive nature. He agreed to continue on the rooftop, believing his superior footwork and balance would allow him to function effectively even on the narrow ledge. They climbed to the rooftop via the building's fire escape, both men making the transition from Tanaka's dojo to the roof without discussing what they were really doing, both caught in the momentum of challenge and response that prevents rational reconsideration. Robert followed them, increasingly concerned but unable to stop two grown men committed to this test. On the roof, Tanaka immediately moved to the ledge, stepping onto the narrow border with the confidence of someone who had trained there before. The ledge ran around the entire rooftop perimeter, a 2-foot-wide path with the main roof on one side and a 12-story drop on the other. Tanaka settled into fighting stance, hands raised, weight centered, daring Bruce to join him. If you're watching this story develop and understanding that Bruce Lee is about to fight a karate master on a rooftop ledge where one misstep means death, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. This moment becomes one of the most dangerous and reckless encounters in Bruce's life. Not because of the opponent's skill, though Tanaka is formidable, but because the environment itself creates danger that has nothing to do with martial arts and everything to do with basic physics and mortality. Subscribe to see how fighting prowess translates to impossible environmental conditions. Bruce steps onto the ledge. The transition from solid roof to narrow border creates immediate awareness of the danger. The ledge is wide enough to stand on, but narrow enough that normal fighting stances feel constrained. Looking down, which Bruce deliberately doesn't do, would show the 12-story drop. The alley far below, the certainty of death if balance fails. The wind is present but not extreme, a steady breeze that wouldn't matter on solid ground but on a narrow ledge. 12 stories up becomes a factor that must be accounted for. The ledge surface is concrete, slightly rough, providing adequate traction in dry conditions, but offering no forgiveness for missteps. Tanaka attacks first, moving along the ledge with practiced confidence, executing a Meigeri front kick aimed at Bruce's midsection. The kick is controlled but real, intended to make Bruce move backward to test whether his footwork remains functional when backward movement means stepping closer to the edge. Bruce doesn't move backward. Instead, he shifts laterally, moving along the ledge's length rather than away from it, angling so Tanaka's kick passes by without forcing Bruce toward the dangerous edge. His footwork is precise, his weight distribution perfect, his awareness of spatial boundaries absolute. They exchange this way for several minutes, both men moving along the ledge, attacking and defending while constantly aware of the drop on one side, the roof edge on the other. The fighting is slower than it was in the dojo, not because either man is less committed, but because the environment demands extra precision, extra awareness, extra control. Tanaka attempts a Mawashi-geri roundhouse kick, the circular motion designed to come around Bruce's defense, but executing a full roundhouse kick requires planting weight firmly, generating power through hip rotation, committing to the motion. On a narrow ledge with a 12-story drop, that commitment creates vulnerability. If the kick misses and momentum carries the kicker off balance, the consequences are far more severe than in a dojo. Bruce recognizes this vulnerability and exploits it. As Tanaka commits to the kick, Bruce drops low. letting the kick pass over him while simultaneously moving inside Tanaka's balance point. He doesn't try to throw Tanaka. That would be murder, not martial arts. But he demonstrates that he could disrupt Tanaka's balance if he chose to. This near disruption makes Tanaka realize the danger they're both in. On solid ground, losing balance means falling to a padded floor, maybe getting hit while recovering. On this ledge, losing balance means death. The environmental stakes have transformed their confrontation from competitive sparring to something far more serious. "This is insane," Robert calls out from the main roof area, his voice carrying fear and desperation. "Both of you, get off the ledge before someone dies. This isn't testing skill. This is just reckless." But neither Bruce nor Tanaka responds. They're locked into this challenge, both too committed to back down, both believing their skill is sufficient to handle the danger, both caught in the psychological trap that masculine ego creates when retreat seems like admitting weakness. Tanaka changes tactics. Instead of power techniques that require planting weight firmly, he begins using faster, lighter attacks, jabs, quick kicks, techniques that maintain his balance while testing Bruce's defensive responses. This is smarter fighting for the environment, adapting his karate to the constraints the ledge creates. Bruce matches this adaptation with his own adjustments. His footwork becomes even more economical, his movement smaller, his positioning more defensive. He's not trying to win this exchange anymore. He's trying to survive it without either of them dying. The realization has settled in his mind that Tanaka's challenge was reckless stupidity, that they're both risking their lives for nothing more than ego, that continuing this is insane. But stopping requires someone to retreat first, to step off the ledge and admit that the environment is too dangerous for continuing. Neither man wants to be that person. So they continue, moving along the narrow ledge, attacking and defending, both skilled enough to function in this impossible environment, but both painfully aware that skill has limits, that one unexpected gust of wind or moment of distraction could end a life. Margaret Chen, 11 floors below, watches through her office window, her hands pressed against the glass, too terrified to look away, too paralyzed to call for help. She can see both men clearly in the twilight, can see the precision of their movements, the danger of their environment. She expects at any moment to see one of them fall, to hear the impact far below, to witness death from her 11th floor window. Before I continue with what happens as this impossible fight reaches its crisis point, as environmental danger and martial skill collide in ways that transform both men's understanding of courage and recklessness, I need to know you're feeling the tension of this moment. Drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from and whether this rooftop battle is revealing something about the difference between bravery and stupidity, between testing skill and risking life for nothing but ego. Because what happens in the next phase forces both men to choose between pride and survival. Tanaka executes a spinning back kick, the advanced technique requiring full rotation on one planted foot, the other leg extending in powerful kick. It's impressive technique, perfectly executed, demonstrating years of training. But on a narrow ledge, the spinning motion creates rotational momentum that must be controlled precisely, and the planted foot must maintain perfect stability during the entire rotation. The kick comes close to Bruce's head, forcing him to duck low. As Tanaka completes the rotation and attempts to reset his stance, his planted foot slips slightly on the concrete ledge. Not dramatically, just an inch, just enough that his balance shifts unexpectedly. His arms windmill for a moment, his body teetering as he fights to recover stability. Bruce's hand shoots out, grabs Tanaka's GI pants at the waist, provides an anchor point that prevents Tanaka from toppling backward off the ledge. The grab is instinctive, not strategic, pure human response to seeing someone about to fall to their death. Bruce pulls Tanaka back toward center, helps him regain balance, keeps him alive despite the fact that they were just fighting. Tanaka stands there breathing hard, his hands still raised in fighting position, but his eyes showing something different now. Fear, real fear, not the performative kind that martial artists train to overcome, but genuine confrontation with his own mortality. He just almost died. Fell to his death from a rooftop because he executed a spinning kick in an environment where spinning kicks create unacceptable risk. And his opponent, the man he challenged, the man he insulted, the man he's been trying to prove inferior, just saved his life. "Get off the ledge," Bruce says, his voice showing the strain of maintaining his own balance while pulling Tanaka back from the edge. "Both of us. This is stupid. We're risking our lives for nothing." But Tanaka's ego, even confronted with near death, resists admitting the challenge was a mistake. "You grabbed me. That means you couldn't beat me with pure technique, had to resort to breaking the rules." "There are no rules up here," Bruce responds sharply. "That's why this is insane. On this ledge, one gust of wind, one moment of distraction, one tiny slip like you just had, and someone dies. Not because their martial arts is inferior, but because fighting on a 2-foot ledge 12 stories up is fundamentally stupid regardless of skill level." The truth in Bruce's words is undeniable, but Tanaka's pride won't allow acceptance. Then prove you can handle it better than I can. Continue the fight. Show me your superior adaptive style works, even when the environment tries to kill you. Bruce makes a decision. He could walk away, could step off the ledge, and refuse to continue this madness. But Tanaka's challenge contains a legitimate question beneath the ego and recklessness. Can adaptive fighting handle extreme environments better than traditional training? Does Bruce's synthesis approach provide advantages when the ground itself becomes an enemy? We continue, Bruce agrees, but with different objective. Not trying to defeat each other, trying to move together along the ledge, maintaining balance, adapting to the environment rather than fighting against it. The test isn't who can beat who. The test is whether we can both survive an environment that wants to kill us. Tanaka considers this reframing. It saves face. He doesn't have to admit defeat or back down from the challenge, while transforming the confrontation from combat to collaboration. Agreed. We move along the ledge's full perimeter. Whoever loses balance first concedes the point. They begin moving, not fighting now, but navigating, both men's full attention focused on the narrow concrete border beneath their feet, the wind, their balance, the environmental factors that matter more than technique or strength. They move clockwise around the rooftop perimeter, stepping carefully, weight distribution perfect, awareness absolute. Bruce's footwork, developed through years of training that emphasized efficiency and adaptability, serves him well. He moves along the ledge with confidence, his body position always centered, his steps precise, his balance maintained through understanding of structure rather than just muscle tension. The cha-cha footwork he's developed, the constant small adjustments, the sensitivity to weight distribution, all of these translate effectively to this impossible environment. Tanaka's traditional karate training, while excellent for generating power and maintaining solid stances, creates some disadvantages on the ledge. His wide stances, optimized for stability on solid ground, feel constrained on the narrow border. His powerful techniques, designed to overwhelm opponents through commitment, require planting weight in ways that feel dangerous when one foot sits inches from a lethal drop. But Tanaka has something Bruce lacks: experience training in this specific environment. He's practiced on rooftops before, has developed comfort with heights, has trained his mind to ignore the fear that ledges and drops create. His psychological adaptation to the environment compensates for his technique's limitations. They complete one full circuit of the rooftop, moving along all four sides of the building's perimeter, navigating corners where the ledge changes direction, passing over the spots where roof access structures interrupt the narrow border. Both men maintain balance throughout, both proving that their skill is sufficient to handle this impossible environment, both demonstrating courage that borders on insanity. As they complete the circuit and return to their starting point, Robert calls out again. "You've both proven whatever you needed to prove. Please get off the ledge before the wind picks up or someone actually falls." This time, both men listen. They step back onto the main roof surface, the transition from narrow ledge to solid ground creating immediate sense of safety, of having survived something stupid that could have ended tragically. They stand there breathing hard, not from physical exertion, but from the mental strain of maintaining perfect focus under conditions where distraction equals death. Tanaka bows formally to Bruce, the bow deep and genuine, showing respect earned through honest testing under the most extreme conditions. "Your balance and footwork are exceptional. Your adaptive approach handles unpredictable environments better than I expected. I was wrong to dismiss your methods as inferior to traditional training. And you were right that dojo fighting doesn't test everything," Bruce acknowledges. "Training in safe environments creates comfort that can become limitation. You've shown me that traditional karateka who train in harsh conditions develop psychological resilience I should incorporate into my own practice." They move away from the ledge, back toward the roof access door, both men relieved to be on solid ground again. Robert is visibly shaken, his hands trembling from watching two people he cares about risk their lives for what he views as completely pointless challenge. "Don't ever do that again," Robert says, his voice showing anger mixed with relief. "Either of you. That wasn't testing martial arts. That was playing Russian roulette with gravity. You both could have died up here, and for what? To prove which style is better? You're both idiots." Neither Bruce nor Tanaka argues with this assessment. The adrenaline is wearing off, the reality of what they just did settling in. They fought on a rooftop ledge 12 stories above concrete, in failing light, with nothing but skill and luck preventing tragedy. Robert's right. It was idiotic, reckless, the kind of thing that young men do when ego overwhelms judgment. They descend the fire escape together, leaving the rooftop behind, the narrow ledge empty again, the site of confrontation that tested more than martial arts skill, tested courage, tested balance, tested the limits of what human capability can handle when environment itself becomes an opponent. Margaret Chen watches them climb down the fire escape past her window, sees 3 men alive and intact where she expected to witness at least one death. She closes her window, returns to her desk, sits there with shaking hands, unable to continue working. What she just witnessed from her 11th floor office, 2 men fighting on a rooftop ledge, moving with impossible precision, surviving through skill that seemed to defy natural human limits, will stay with her for the rest of her life. That's the truth about the rooftop battle that only a handful of people know happened. That Bruce Lee and a karate master fought on a narrow ledge 12 stories above ground. That both survived through exceptional skill and dumb luck. That environmental danger tested them in ways pure combat never could. That courage and stupidity sometimes look identical. That testing skill under extreme conditions reveals both capability and recklessness. That wisdom includes knowing when to step back from challenges that risk life for nothing but pride. If this story revealed something about the difference between bravery and foolish risk-taking, about how environment can be more dangerous than any opponent, subscribe so you never miss these deeper truths. Comment below. Tell us where you're watching from and what this taught you about the line between testing yourself and unnecessarily risking death. The rooftop incident becomes a story that exists in fragments, told differently by the few people who know about it. Robert mentions it occasionally to close friends as an example of how Bruce's competitive nature sometimes overcame his judgment, how even masters can make reckless choices when ego is engaged. Tanaka never speaks of it publicly, though his students notice he stops training on rooftops after that night. That his attitude toward challenge matches becomes more cautious, less willing to escalate confrontations to dangerous extremes. Bruce incorporates the experience into his teaching about the difference between testing skill and risking life unnecessarily. When students ask about facing danger to prove themselves, he tells them about the rooftop, about how proving a point to someone else isn't worth dying for, about how environmental dangers can kill you just as effectively as skilled opponents. He uses the story to teach judgment, to help students understand that true mastery includes knowing when to walk away from challenges that serve no real purpose beyond ego. Margaret Chen never tells anyone what she saw until our interview 5 decades later. Who would believe her? 2 men fighting on a rooftop ledge like something from a movie, moving with precision that seemed impossible, surviving danger that should have killed at least one of them. She carried the memory privately, occasionally questioning whether what she witnessed was real or some stress-induced hallucination from working too late at a job she hated. But the memory remained consistent across the years, the details never changing the way imagined events shift with time. The smaller man's incredible balance, the larger man in the karate uniform almost falling, the grab that prevented tragedy, the complete circuit of the rooftop perimeter, the descent down the fire escape. All of it stayed clear in her mind, as vivid 50 years later as it was the night it happened. One witness who wasn't looking for martial arts drama but happened to be in the right place at the right time. One woman who saw something impossible and carried it silently because explaining it invited skepticism. One memory that confirms what happened on that rooftop was real, was witnessed, was exactly as dangerous and reckless and skillful as the participants remembered. Bruce Lee battled a karate master on a rooftop ledge where one wrong move meant a 12-story fall to certain death. Both men survived through exceptional skill. Both learned that environmental danger tests more than technique. Both walked away, understanding that some challenges aren't worth the risk regardless of how skilled you are. A handful of people know it happened. One witness saw it from her window 11 floors below, and the narrow ledge remains, unchanged, a site where impossibility occurred through a combination of mastery and foolishness that serves as warning as much as inspiration.